Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the fourth session of the day, Enhancing Farmland Biodiversity through Agroforestry in the Eastern Himalayas, which is a part of the series Rewilding Future. In today's session, we will be discussing about the factors that have led to the decades-old farmers' crisis in India and Brazil, and the present-day culmination of the socio-economic issues. We will also be exploring how agroforestry can be introduced in the existing systems of agriculture in India and the Eastern Himalaya region and the potential it presents. Additionally, we will also try to understand the potential and benefit that agroforestry presents towards the creation of biodiverse farmlands and how it can lead to income and food security for the farming community. For this, we are delighted and honored to have an esteemed panel, Paula Costa and Mahan Borah. Paula Costa is a forest engineer and a specialist consultant in agroforestry systems and native and exotic species of silviculture. With more than 10 years of experience in regenerative production systems and advanced knowledge in dendrology, botanic, and the development of research and innovation in the agroforestry production system of organic farm, Fazenda da Toca. Mohan Chandra Borah is an agroforestry expert and also runs a unique library in the foothills of eastern Himalayas in Assam to preserve the rare indigenous rice varieties. Annapurna Seed Library is the only library in Northeast India exclusively preserving indigenous rice seeds. Mohan Borah's mission is to collect, promote, and preserve the cultivation of heirloom rice in the region because of the growing climate concern. His subsequent efforts made it possible to build a library that now includes different varieties of rice like flood tolerant, aromatic, black rice, etc. Respected panelists, I welcome you both to today's insightful discussion on enhancing farmland biodiversity through agroforestry in the Eastern Himalaya. Opening up the panel, I would first come to Paula, and we would like to know and understand the current farmers' crisis in Brazil and the factors that have led up to it in the past few decades. Paula, if you could make us understand about the farmers' crisis that Brazil is facing right now, and what is your view on it?
Great, Rabjita, thank you. Nice to be here with you. Mahan Borah, nice to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation. Well, of course, it's appropriate to start understanding the challenges that we are facing um, before we face what's really the solution, which is not only one solution, right? Because it's a complex. There are many challenges, many complex challenges, and in the projects and in the works that I have been developing with PRETATERRA, which is my initiative, but not only, much before that, in many places in Brazil, in the Brazilian Amazon, and in other regions throughout the world, we can see, we can understand that the challenges that farmers are facing are pretty much the same. Of course, with um, a few areas that are specific in each region, but pretty much it's the same because, first of all, I could say that farmers, they are, the smallholders especially, they are reproducing the logics of the monocropping, the commodity production, the large scale production. But we know that when we have a large scale production, it is much more economically viable, much more efficient, right? But if you reproduce this logic in a small scale, you're not going to have the same profit. It's not going to be profitable. It's not going to pay all the bills. And in the end, this logic that the farmer adopts, which means they will choose only one product, they will occupy his or her whole land with only this one crop, and will address only one market. So he's just a slave of this market, because if the price changes, if the price lowers a lot, it's not going to be viable for him. So I think that this is the first problem or the first challenge that these farmers, the first cause that is now leading these farmers to all these challenges. And of course, adopting monocropping is what is leading to so many other problems. First of them is soil depletion, dependency on chemical inputs, dependency on these global scale commodity markets, and then the farmers won't have food resiliency. That's the most important things. And now what we see is that these farmers, these people, they are impoverished. They are not producing anymore. They don't have the sovereignty over their own food production, and that's what has led to this huge world crisis. In the end, what this is leading now is to this rural exodus, what means that people living in the countrysides are leaving their work, are leaving their jobs, because they feel that they're leaving their livelihoods, because what the new generations learned is that being a farmer is not a proper work. It's not something good. You're going to suffer. It's going to be too hard. You're going to be poor. So people young people look to go live in the cities, and so this is one thing leading to another, and we need to stop this current crisis, this movement of crisis in the countryside and people moving to the cities. And in the other hand, we see that the same people that move to the cities, they don't live well in the city. They're not happy there. They don't find their livelihoods there. They don't have jobs there. They are living in terrible quality. So it's not that idea that they learned, they thought it would be. They would consume a lot, they would have comfort and everything. It doesn't happen. So in the end, we have this huge crisis where people are living unhappy and without jobs in the cities, and the cities are crowded of people. And in the other hand, the countryside is absolutely empty, without people to work. And this is a huge challenge if you're looking to implement agroforestry. It's hard to find people to work, so we have to remanage this logic. We have to bring people back to the countryside. We have to show them that agriculture is a proper livelihood, that you can have dignity living as a farmer. And we have to restore all this relationship that people have with the land, with the crops, with the production, with the countryside livelihood. And of course, it's a super complex matter. It happens in India, it happens in Brazil, it happens across the entire planet. But I think that this is the challenge that we have to face. We have to bring people back to the countryside, and we have to empower them to keep working with a rural livelihood, with a biodiverse livelihood, not based on monocropping, not based on industrial agriculture. It's complex, but I would say it's something like that.
Thank you, Paula. I think you described it really well. That how the issues of farmer crisis is such that it's almost similar to what is going on in Assam, or say maybe in India. But I would like to know from Mohan Bora that what exactly, like Paula mentioned about monoculture, which we also see in Assam. So can you tell us what are the other issues or the other crises that farmers are facing in India in the past some decades?
Paula already said what is happening in other parts of world, and India has also same problem. I just want to add something, and our farmer have facing some other problem also. Our farmer don't have the irrigation system, and they don't have own seed, and they don't have own fertilizer, and they don't have pesticide. They have to buy everything from the market. Once upon a time, our farmer was sustainable. They have growing all the need for the farming they in their own farm. But nowadays, all the farmer depend on the market, and they have to buy each and everything from the market. And the primary need of a farmer is land. In my point of view, primary need of a farmer, the land is the primary need. But second primary need is seed. And nowadays, all the farmer, if one farmer, if a farmer wants to grow any type of crops, they have to make a budget. So they have to uh, spend some money for seed, for fertilizer, for pesticide. But our farmer don't have so much money to spend. So these are the problem faced by our farmer. And Mm, so I believe one thing that if we make our farmers sustainable, then our food system can be sustainable.
Thank you, Mr. Borah. That was really insightful. So, when we talk about food system, and when you are talking about some alternate farming practices, so you both are even experts of agroforestry. So, Paula, can you throw some light on how agroforestry can assist in elevating the problems of the farming community, especially in regard to small and marginal farmers?
Good. So when we talk about agroforestry, we are talking about resilience. And resilience, and of course, not depending on outside inputs. As Mr. Borah mentioned, farmers now, since they adopted the monocropping industrial agriculture model, they depend on the seeds they buy in the market, on the inputs they buy in the market. They depend on irrigation systems that they need to buy everything in the market. So this is not resilient. And you depend on prices changing. So what farmers need to look is to be resilient. And how can they be resilient? We have to learn from nature. So when we see in a forest is super biodiverse, and this biodiversity is what brings resilience. Of course, ecological resilience for the forest, but for the farmer, number one resilience is food resilience. His or her land, must supply everything that they need to feed themselves, at least the basic, right? Because you won't depend on external markets, you won't depend on buying your staple food. You have to produce your own staple food in your own production system. So when we are talking about a biodiverse production system, we have to think it in a strategic way, in a way that it produces staple food, it produces cash crops, and it produces aggregated value crops. So when you have this biodiversity of products, the farmer will be more resilient. So there is a specific crop that he can sell with a better price in the market. He's got a specific buyer that buys with a premium price. Another crop that they will sell in the commodity market. Okay, they won't aggregate any value to this product, but they will be able to have this bulk, this large production, and guarantee the stability of their income. And they will have the products that they can either sell locally in small in their towns, in their small villages, but also it will be enough for their own livelihood, for their own family feeding. So in the end, I think that what agroforestry addresses is resiliency, food resiliency, economical resiliency, and ecological resiliency. That's the most important that farmers should look for. And of course, it is a little bit more complex because we are talking about, because why is it people don't choose agroforestry in the first place? Why did they choose monocropping? Of course, monocropping is much more simple. It's much easier. You have to choose only one crop. You have to learn everything about one crop. You know all the management, you know all the market, you know all the inputs you need. So it's much more easier, right? on the other hand, agroforestry, it is more complex because you need to know these other crops, you need to know these other markets. But in the end, we are just rescuing the knowledge that our ancestors, the older people who used to live in these farmlands, that they had. Because actually, agroforestry is a very old kind of agriculture. It's very ancient. And people back then understood all the biodiversity of species, all the diversity of crops, and they were able to manage it in a much more simple way. So we just need to rescue this ancestral knowledge, and we need to apply that in our current production systems back, right? So I think what we are looking for is resiliency for our farmers and rescuing ancestral livelihoods, ancestral knowledge to apply back to our production systems. So I think that sums up what agroforestry, how agroforestry can really help the farmers.
Thank you, Paula. Actually, this is a very interesting point that you've put, that how it's a very old practice, agroforestry, but people don't know about it. People who follow monoculture. So I'd like to come back to Mr. Bora, and because you have started agroforestry in Jorhat, and you are Mr. Bora, you are a passionate farmer. We all know. So can you tell us that how agroforestry is helping, or how did you manage to convince the people of that area to shift from monoculture to agroforestry? Some knowledge from field, if you want to tell us.
Yes, like Paula said, and we have a traditional farming system. Before 500 years back, when Ahom dynasty was ruling our in this part of world, and they have introduced a farming system, a bari concept, bari system. Bari means a particular plot of land. The middle of the land, the house is situated in middle of the land, and the farmer use the different kind of different kind of crops like star fruit, jackfruit, mango, betel nut, betel leaf. All these things they planting in that area, and they fulfill their day-to-day use. And now we are introducing in that type of a model in our area, and it is completely new things among the farmer of particular area. And we have some selected crops like Bhojolika, king chili, and moringa, and Assam lemon. It is a particular lemon, and only grow in Assam. And some like ginger and garlic, and papaya. All these things we growing together. And we notice one thing, that when we growing moringa among the uh, lemon tree, and both of they are growing happily, and the pest attack is very less. And I just want to giving some example regarding pest. And one pest we call aphid, and aphid is a very serious problem of that particular Bhojologia. And the aphid brings that very dangerous virus and among the plants. And if we grow that Bhojologia, the king chili among that plant, the aphid cannot come to that Bhojologia. So very nicely pest management. You need not add any pesticide, or you need not add any extra input from the market. And very nice conditionally they are growing, and farmers are adopting this our model, and they are getting earning more.
Okay, so Mr. Bora, when we talk about agroforestry in Assam, what are the, like Paula mentioned, that some are cash crops, some are other crops. So what are the crops that or plants that we plant which interest people. Like, why are people shifting from monoculture to agroforestry? That is something we would like to know.
And in monoculture, we notice one thing that if the crop prices become down, the farmer will be completely lost. And we encourage farmer to uh, growing different type of crops. If one crop's price will be down, then the other crops can help to get the price. So we believe one thing is that diversity is the security. So all of we should believe that things properly. And in monoculture, we need to use extra input like fertilizer, pesticide, and very large scale. In very large scale, our small farmer does not have so much money to buy all these things from the market, and the big farmer can take a loan from the bank, but our bank does not like to give the loan for the small farmer. So we encourage farmer to depend on different type of crops which have very less land holding, less than 1 acre of less than 1 acre of land, and we encourage them to growing different type of crops, and different and encourage them to make seed library in their village, and they keeping their own seed. The our own local variety have a, they if they growing our local variety, they can get a good price from the consumer. And nowadays our consumer also like to buy our local variety of plant, and now they are getting very happy.
Okay, so we have been discussing about agroforestry, both of your point of views are really really interesting. So one question that came up to my mind is that how Paula, it's for you. That would you like to tell us that how agroforestry plays a crucial role in the ecosystem services, which is fundamental for the sustenance of the economy?
Well, that's also complex, but it makes for us a lot of sense. Uh, it's something that we are used to apply in the systems that we plan with farmers. It's a feature that we call, it's called service species. So species that we add to the system, to the agroforestry design, that they are not there for a specific product. They are not like a moringa or a ginger or a lemon tree or a mango. They are actually there to provide a service, as we call it, not a product, a service. And it's usually these species, they could be fast growing shrubs or trees. They tolerate pruning, constant pruning, and they cycle a lot of nutrients. So why do we apply these species, these trees, or these shrubs, or even herbs in these agroforestry designs? Because we need to reproduce the logic of the forest in our production systems, right? So what the trees do, what do? They have very, very deep root systems, and they are able to cycle, to capture nutrients in very deep layers of the soil that the crops that have shorter root systems cannot reach. So once the trees reach these nutrients in the deep parts of the soil, it brings back these nutrients to their leaves, to their branches. And when we prune these branches, when we chop these trees down, we bring these nutrients that were deep in the soil back to the surface. And when this biomass that we just pruned from the tree starts to decompose, it brings back all the nutrients to the crops that have the short roots. So this is the logic when we have a service species in the system, in the design. So that's why agroforestry is more resilient. It doesn't depend that much on external inputs because we look to cycle the nutrients in the very production system. So this is one thing, the nutrient cycling. But when we think about that, we have to think a little bit more holistic and understand that doing this, having biomass covering the soil, having trees in the production system, we help so much because, first of all, carbon, of course, when we talk about ecosystem services, carbon is the first example. It's the easiest for us to understand. So when we're growing trees, we are sequestering carbon. When we add biomass to the soil, when we cover the soil with biomass and this biomass decompose slowly, we sequester carbon in the soil. So it's so much carbon that we can sequester in an agroforestry system. So this is the first thing, super important. The second thing is soil conservation. If you have a soil covered, if you have trees with dense roots protecting and holding the soil particles, it won't suffer with erosion. And this is super important because erosion is the key element, the key problem that leads to soil loss, to soil depletion. We need to stop erosion, and having trees and having soil covering, we can stop erosion. Also, when we have trees in the landscape, the more trees we have, the fresher is the environment. We can feel, of course, in the microclimate of the production system. We can feel the temperature much more lower. We can feel the humidity in the air. So the presence of the trees, just for the microclimate, that eventually will bring consequences to the microclimate, right? So we need to. So in the end, having trees in the agricultural landscapes will bring benefits to the climate, will bring benefits to the soil, and of course we can think of fauna. So the presence of trees in the landscape, they are important for birds, for other animals, to have shelter, to have food as well. So it's just all these relations in the landscape, in the environment, that we are bringing back. So having trees, having biodiversity, that's what we are looking for in the landscape, to have all these ecosystem services, and the systems, the agroforestry systems, can provide them.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing up the most important point, that is climate change, and how if there is no trees, the soil erosion will happen and all of that. So, regarding this, I would like to know from Mr. Borah that you mentioned in the earlier speech that you are doing a seed library. And also, so can you make us understand that how seed library can help in food security, and also how it brings a positive impact towards climate change? Like how does it reverse? Will it ever reverse climate change? How do you relate both of them? Like if you can pick up points from what Paula said about soil erosion and how the climate is changing and how the temperature is increasing, and one way in the other way you are building a seed library. So what is your view on that?
Yes. Actually, I have already mentioned that the second important primary need is seed. If we don't have seed, we don't have food. We can say like that. And our food chain is completely directly linked to the seed. And nowadays, we given the opportunity to growing our own seed to the industry after coming industrial agriculture. It is a very bad things. And after green revolution, we have lost more than 70% of our crop diversity. It is a very bad things. But now it is some of the people uh, trying to creating awareness among the farmer, among the farming communities, and from the ancient time, our ancestor, our forefather, giving us many type of seeds so that we can growing our production system very nicely. But after coming our industrial agriculture, we have lost all the seed variety. and our old seed are completely disappearing from the farmer field by and by, and some of the things going to be extinct. And all the seed variety have diverse genetic variation, and we have rice is the main staple crops of this part of world, and we have different kind of rice. And when we're talking about the food security in the we ignore that important part, nutrition level. We have to think about the nutrition so that our people can getting all the nutrition from the food. The main motto of the green revolution was grow more. They ignore all these things, the biodiversity, the soil, the water, the air, all these things they ignored. But when we starting to growing our own seed and we can get all these things, we can fight against the climate change also. We can giving the all consumer a healthy food, and that all these things will be happen through a seed library. And the main function of a seed library is collecting, propagating, and the distribution of seeds. And they have to make a list of the seeds which are available in the particular area. And we have already making lots of seed library in our project area, and the people are very happy. And already we have make a biodiversity register in that particular area, agro biodiversity register, what type of insect and what type of seeds are available in that part of area. And a farmer, actually I believe that a farmer knows very well about the seed, and will I would like to know you. I would like to express you that I have 200 years old rice variety and collected from the farmer, and now also the farmer is growing that type of quality still today. And we have flood resistant variety like our Moimonsingia bao, Dol bao, and lots of bao variety. And some of the bao variety can grow up to 18 feet water. If water level is increased up to 18 feet or 12 feet, and the bow variety can grow in that part of land also. We have drought resistant variety also, and we have lots of variety which have medicinal value. And one in South India, I know one variety called Kurumkurubai, and that type of variety can fight against the filariasis disease. And Nevera is well known that the rice variety can fight lots of disease. And in particular in Assam, and we have I introduced one variety, and in lower Assam that particular variety called Moinagiri, and in upper Assam we call it Dolkosu. But both the people does not know the value of the variety, but those side people use that particular variety in their medicinal purpose and fever and in jaundice. It is very astonished things for the seeds. And I have actually encouraged to school children also, so that they can make a seed library in their school, and young generation also, because our young generation should know about the seed diversity, about the seed property of our particular area, and all the seed variety. And lastly, I just want to add one things. If we want to fight against the adverse effect of climate change, we must have our own seed, and we must have our diversity. One or two variety, if our scientists making in the laboratory, that we cannot fight with the climate change. We must have our diversity. We must have our own seed, and all the variety need not much water, don't need extra input, don't need fight that type of pesticide and insecticide. And I love all the seeds, and our food security depend on our own seed variety. And our the cost of production will be reduced if you use our own variety. The cost of production will be reduced. That's all.
If I can complement what Mr. Mohan Borah is saying, it's super important, his work. I think it's really the basis, because if we don't have seed, we don't have anything. And the biggest challenge that we have so far to implement large-scale agroforestry or large-scale restoration is the seeds. We don't have them available. They are not there. The farmers don't have them yet. So the work that he's doing is super fundamental. It's super basis. And there are a few things when he's saying all these different varieties. This is the biodiversity. We're not talking only biodiversity, thinking of different species, but also the genetic variability, the genetic diversity within the crop. So if we have maize, for instance, we need to have a diversity of mazes, all kinds of varieties, and this will bring adaptability. So to each region, to each context, if it's drier, if it's hotter, if it's wetter, we have a different variety. So that's the biodiversity, the importance of biodiversity. And so I would say that these 2 points are super important about his work: the availability of seedlings and seeds for large scale projects, and the adaptability of these varieties to the different ecosystems that we are going to work with.
Thank you, Paula. You expressed this really beautifully. I totally agree with when we talk about biodiversity, people think that biodiversity is like different kinds of seeds and different kinds of things. But it's very true that one variety only has so many different species, and Mohan Borah is doing something that is really commendable. And we are also encouraging him, and we are trying to work with him now so that we can also see more seed libraries coming in the future. Mohan Bora, would you like to sum up your experience, and would you like to share something right now with all of us? How did you feel talking to Paula? How was your experience?
I'm very grateful to all of you because it is a very great opportunity for me to talk in this type of platform, and I have learned a lot from Paula. And thank you, Paula, and thank you, Ravijita.
Paula, any last thoughts from your side?
Yeah, well, first of all, of course, thank you very much. I think this kind of discussion, especially when it's with people from so different backgrounds, we can learn so much, and we feel much more strong with our work, to keep our work, because we know there are many people who have who thinks similar to us across the world. So that's great. I just want to say that I think you mentioned to Mohambura, what are the challenges on convincing the farmers to have agroforestry, to change to agroforestry? I think that it's not anymore a matter of convincing, because the farmers, they are feeling the dramatic consequences of climate change. They are on the ground. They can feel that the rain is different, that the soil is depleting. They can see all these things happening, and they feel the consequences in their production as well. So the farmers are looking for something more resilient. They are looking for alternatives. And when we bring agroforestry, when we talk about biodiverse production systems with trees, it makes sense for them. It's logic for them, and it's just reconnects to this part of them that is this ancestral knowledge. So I think that it's not only convincing now. Now we have just to share, to educate, to share the knowledge, to try and do together with them, because in the end, this is what they are looking for. They need this change, because they know their production systems are at risk. They are there. They are feeling it. So I think that actually me and Walter, we are with a great project with Balipara Foundation, and we are super, super happy that we are carrying on with this project. They're in Assam. Actually, we were supposed to be there, but next year we will be there on the ground. We really hope to meet everybody there. and to spread this knowledge, to do it together with the farmers, to spread agroforestry, because we are pretty sure that this is something that will be game changing for the farmers, for the region, for the climate in the end. So I think that's it. And just thank you so much, Rabjita, for the invitation. Thank you, Mahan Borah, for being here, and for your work in the field with the farmers. That is super important. And well, that's it. I'm super happy to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Just 1 minute,
Thank you
Rohit.
so
I just want to add.
Yeah.
I want to share my feeling, and I believe that in our society the superior profession is the teacher, and the teacher can guide a generation and very nicely, and he can make anything of a generation. But I believe that the more than that, the farmer is the main profession in our society, who give all who give us food, and who if farmer cannot
Yeah.
produce food for all of us, our society will be demolished. So try to respect the farmer. So I appeal all of the who are seeing all in our session, and I appeal all the guys to respect the farmers, and don't bargaining with the farmer. If farmer giving the price, the proper price. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan Bora. Thank you, Paula. If you have any questions, we'll take them. Otherwise, it was really nice speaking to you both, and I think that's the beauty of this forum, that people sitting in India and in Brazil, two people who think so much alike have the opportunity to speak, and we really really look forward to meeting you, Paula. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mohan Bora. Thank you, Paula. See you guys soon.
Thank you very much.